Yeah, well, it's a very hard thing to chase in World Cup cricket. You've got to be a very strong batting lineup, and you've got to bat deep. And South Africa don't do that. I've seen they brought in Dumney to bat in 7, just hoping that he can get through with some of his off spinners. But Hardian wasn't good enough. Just those little dibbly dobs were costing South Africa, and I saw de Villiers bowl as well. So that fifth change bowler for South Africa is a real problem for them leading into the finals of the World Cup. And the only other option they've got who can bat well is Wayne Parnell. Now, will they bring him in and bat him out 7? Or will they try Philander, and hopefully Philander can make some runs as well? So that is a huge issue for South Africa, and they rely too heavily on AB de Villiers. You look at the cock, he's struggling. Miller made runs early on against Ireland, I think it was. He got 100, but he hasn't done much since that game. Amlar seems to be struggling with form. He's a fantastic bat, but they just rely too heavily on Amlar and de Villiers, and I don't think they're going to go any further than the semi-finals in this campaign. Yeah, well, du Plessis got a big name about him too. He did well a year ago, but he just hasn't shone in the last couple of months as well. And they'd be hoping for a lot more from du Plessis, de Kock, Rosso as well, and Miller, and they're just not getting it. So their depth in their batting lineup, as I just said, they just rely too heavily on 2 players, and you can't afford to do that in World Cup cricket. And if you look at the other teams, India have got a very strong top 5 or top 6 with Dhoni coming in at 6. Sri Lanka have got a very experienced top order. Australia have got an extremely balanced top order as well, and those teams are the ones that have strong batting lineups that can chase big totals. So if you only rely on two players and you are going to be chasing big totals, you're going to struggle when it comes to the tougher competition in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. Yeah, I wouldn't have given them 2 points against South Africa, but they've just been so inconsistent. They've been very much like the West Indies. You never know what's going to happen when they rock up on any day. And both South Africa, both Pakistan and the West Indies are predictably unpredictable. So you never know what you're going to get on any given day when they rock up. And let's move on to the West Indies. They played against India the other night, and they only scored a low total, 180, I think it was. But they had India on the ropes, but they just didn't have the firepower. They didn't have the nous. They don't have a strong leader. Well, they have a young leader in Holder. I shouldn't have said they don't have a strong leader, but they have a young leader who's inexperienced. He wasn't in the team 6 months ago. He was in and out of the team, and then he's got those experienced players of Gale and Samuels around him. So he'd be finding it very tough to lead the West Indies at the present moment. And I just think South Africa, West Indies and Pakistan aren't going to go any further than the quarterfinals. Yeah, well, you got England playing Bangladesh on Monday. That's going to be the big one for me, because if England are under a lot of pressure, they haven't performed well throughout this tournament, even in the tri-series. They just don't have a team that, to me, is going to win a World Cup, and they're not going to do well in the next 6 months. I think they really need to restructure themselves, rebuild, and rather than changing their team, they've just got to say, right, we're going to pick a squad of 15. We're going to go with them for a year, try and build as much experience as possible, and just develop a team over the next 2 or 3 years to be dominant and hopefully regain that #1 position in the future. So they're in a rebuilding phase, and it's a very big pressure game for them, because Bangladesh are a team that can cause an upset in this particular tournament. Then we've got Australia and Sri Lanka tomorrow night. I think Australia should beat Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka are without Harith, their left-arm off-spinner, and that's going to be a big blow for Sri Lanka, especially in their depth of their bowling. They relied heavily on Harath, and I think that's where Australia are going to dominate tomorrow, and Australia should take out the points against Sri Lanka, and New Zealand definitely against Afghanistan, and New Zealand will finish on top. Well, look, the good thing about Sri Lanka is they've chased down 300 twice, and they've only lost 1 or 2 wickets. I think 1 wicket out most, maybe 2 wickets. And Sangakkara, I think, scored 100 in both of those occasions, and Dilshan scored 100, and Tremaine, I think it is, the opening bat for Sri Lanka, he scored 100 as well on one of those occasions. So Sri Lanka, whether they bowl first, are a team that does well either way. So Australia have really got to be on their guard tomorrow night at the SCG. It's a ground that Sri Lanka have done well against Australia in recent times. So it's not just going to go Australia's way. They've got to play their best cricket to beat a team that's gaining momentum. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I didn't think Sri Lanka had a chance. I thought they were lacklustre in the field. They just didn't seem to have the energy, but all of a sudden the momentum's turned. So Sri Lanka have sort of turned things around and could be a big part in the semi-finals and could probably play in the final as well. So it's between Sri Lanka, India now, as well as Australia and New Zealand for me to be in the semi-finals.